All right. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone, and welcome to what I do believe is I always lose track of these things. I think it is our fifth assessment workshop. So appreciate you for joining us. I mean, it is the day after Labor Day. So hopefully everybody had a good Labor Day weekend and you're ready to do some assessment workshopping, I suppose, is the new way that I'm going to describe these sessions. But today we have a really special program. We not only have one special guest, but we have two. Lucky for you guys. So, of course, my name is Nolan Duda. I'm the Client Experience Manager for Ideal Traits. So I oversee sales support, marketing, retention, and education, and I've been here for about 6.5 years. So hopefully you've attended assessment workshop in the past, or maybe a success spotlight and have seen me go through that process. But today, the spotlight is on our two guests. So today we have Faith Bailey and Trevor Orr. So Faith, if you want to start by introducing yourself, let you talk about how great you are, please.
Great. Thanks, Nolan. Yeah, then I am in charge of our virtual hiring assistant program and been here for 7 years this last July, which is crazy. But I help all of our VHA clients from account management to reviewing assessments, all the things, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But happy and excited to be here. Thanks, Nolan.
I'm sure it might come up at some point, right? All right. And cool. Trevor, how about you talk about how great you are too as well before we get into it?
Oh, we wouldn't have enough time to talk about how great I am, but I will say I've been here for almost 3 years. I'm on the client success team, and I've spent a good amount of time creating job ads and spending time with clients that are in the chat right now. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you both for taking time out of your busy schedules too, right? Know that, Trevor, you obviously provide a lot of great support to all of our clients. And Faith, obviously, you do the same within the virtual hiring assistant program. So appreciate you guys taking a step away from that to be able to provide education to all the good folks that are joining us here. So on the assessment workshop, as we do, and as we have done throughout the last couple of sessions, and if you haven't had a chance to check those out, I will put it in the Q&A section here in a little bit, so you can go back and take a look at some of the old sessions that we've done. But today what we're talking about is attracting the right fit from day one. So we're going to take a little bit of an unorthodox approach towards talking about the assessment, because we're first going to talk about what it takes to create a job ad to find the people with the assessment result that you're looking for. Right now, of course, there's no real guarantee that if I craft this perfect job ad with all of these little things that they tell me what to put in, that I'm going to get 100 sales leaders overnight, right? But it betters your chances of finding the right people. And when it comes to hiring, putting yourself in a position to be in a better chance to find the right person is what Ideal Traits is all about, right? Which is why we have the assessment, which is why we have the video interviewing, which is why we have the texting, which is why we have all of the different things that we've talked about on all these different sessions. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about: crafting language that attracts candidates within the right personality, right? So again, bettering your chances of finding a sales leader if that's what you're looking for, or better chances of you finding a nurturer if that's what you're looking for, right? Next, we're going to avoid vague and misleading descriptions that deter top performers, right? We want to get straight to the point, and we want to make sure that these people get information on the things that they care about. So if we put ourselves, I suppose, in the position or the shoes of a candidate, and we're going to the job boards, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, and we're thinking about ourselves as a candidate and what we're going to look at within a job ad first, probably going to be number one, compensation, number two, benefits, and then you're probably going to sneak in there whether or not the job is remote, obviously with how popular that's become, right? But also, too, as a part of that, what is important is making sure that you have attractive verbiage within your job description, and then your responsibilities and requirements aren't 15 pages long, okay? So we're going to talk about how to avoid that vagueness, and then examples of assessment-informed job ads. So we'll make sure through our competitor benchmark report, you guys do receive job ad templates, for either sales or customer service, depending on which one you're hiring for. So we'll provide you all with the competitor benchmark report, which will give you some insights into what you need to be offering compensation-wise, what you need to be offering benefits-wise to position yourself as the employer of choice, right? And give you some insight into your immediate area, which is always good information. And then, of course, with that, you're going to get sample job ads for either one that you choose, okay, either sales or service. So we'll wrap up with that at the end. But nonetheless, Trevor, we'll start with you. Trevor does a lot of work, with Faith and the virtual hiring assistant team, because a lot of times pretty much all the time, if I'm not mistaken, Trevor, when job ads are submitted through virtual hiring assistant, of course, with that program, they get 2 custom job ads. you are the one who's responsible for writing those beautiful job ads. Does that sound right? Is that a good enough description? All right, cool.
No, perfect.
All right, cool. So what we're going to do, folks, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Now, what is important here, right, is you have two people here, Trevor and Faith, that are a wealth of knowledge. So this is your opportunity to be able to ask them questions about, hey, what should I put in my job ad? What should I do here? What should I do there? So we're going to go through sort of an example with Trevor, and then we're going to go through sort of what that looks like in a consultative approach with Faith. All right. So that's what we're going to knock out. Again, as I share my screen, throw questions in the Q&A section. And then once I unshare my screen, we'll be able to come back to them and get them answered for you. But this session is only as good as the questions that come in. And I promise you, if you're thinking of a question, there's a good chance other people have questions just the same too as well. All right. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and share the entire screen. And Faith, go ahead and confirm that you can see my whole screen. Yeah.
Yep, sure can.
Perfect. So Trevor, what we're going to do here is just going to go ahead and log in to Faith's account. And we're going to go ahead and get logged in. And we're going to go through the process of creating a job, Trevor, and we're going to sort of talk through this. So when we go through here, we're going to skip the add new, right, folks? Just skipping through this part because it's not an onboarding or a product demo, but we're going to get through. So we're going to skip sort of this top section, and we're going to jump right to sort of the job title, job description, responsibilities, and requirements. Now, just as a quick refresher before I suppose we get into it here, is that you do have a couple of different options when it comes to creating a job ad, right? The first one, of course, is that I have the ability to freehand type out the job ad myself, or have the ability to, of course, input maybe from a job ad that I used previously, or maybe I'm using ChatGPT, right? Or whatever it may be to be able to help me with creating that job ad. I also have the templates that are available here to help serve as a blueprint. You can even add in your own job templates too, which is pretty cool. Or, of course, you can use the AI. AI is available in most accounts, but if you don't have it, reach out to us about how you can, of course, upgrade to be able to get it. But it creates job ads within about, what would you say, Faith, 5 to 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 to 10 seconds, right? So again, those are the three options that you have to sort of serve as a blueprint to be able to help you. And then, of course, our support team is always helpful too as well. But Trevor, let's focus on job title for a moment. Of course, you receive a lot of different submissions for a lot of different jobs. I'm sure like account executives, insurance sales, office management, customer service, zoologist, all of these different things, right? So when it comes to creating the job title, what are you usually recommending? I know a very simple concept here when it comes to this, but if I'm looking to find my next best salesperson, which a lot of people are, which is probably why a lot of people are here today, what are you putting for a job title? What do you recommend, and what do you recommend against, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big thing is, we want to attract as many people as possible. And to do that, we need to have, very widely searched keywords. So in a way, we need to go down to the lowest common denominator of what people are going to be searching. We don't want to, if we're hiring for an insurance salesperson, we don't want to be putting in, licensed property and casualty producer, because out of all those words, the average person, they probably aren't searching any of those, quite frankly. They might have licensed in there, but from what we've studied, people aren't really searching property and casualty, and they're definitely not searching producer as well. So instead of licensed property and casualty producer, we want to just dumb it down essentially. So we would want to do licensed insurance sales rep, quite frankly. That's going to be just the easiest way. People are typing in sales, sales rep, your ad is going to populate whenever they type that. If we do something with much more, verbose, kind of wording, then we're going to, maybe have a technically more accurate listing, but it's not going to be showing up to everyone's feeds. So what's the whole point?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to clarify something too. You said licensed insurance sales rep. Is there a big difference between using the word rep or representative? Does that matter at all typically?
Yeah, actually, we did representative for a while. However, on a past webinar with our Indeed rep, they actually told us that rep helps the ad populate into more keyword searches than representative.
Wow.
So we always want to go with rep. I can't necessarily say exactly what the percentage difference is, but
Sure.
if Indeed tells us, we listen. So
Yeah. I think something that's relatively good over the last couple of months or years is that a lot of folks have gotten more comfortable with hiring individuals that maybe have a license and maybe some that don't, right? Like they're like, I'll take either. I'm going to go look at the best person that's for me, right? And of course, the assessment workshop all about the assessment. So instead of focusing on folks with license, what I would encourage you to do is focus on folks with the right personality that you can train and help get licensed. Because as we know, just because someone has an insurance license or has insurance experience does not qualify them to sell or service for your office if you're listening here today. So when I add the word licensed into my title, Trevor, how much do you find that job ads with license in the title will deter a lot of people from applying?
For sure. I think that licensed, if you absolutely have to have someone who is licensed with experience, I think it's appropriate to put it in the title. If you
Sure.
just want them licensed and you don't care about experience, it shouldn't be in the title because people are, they're scrolling so fast through these job ads. They've got busy lives, right? So they're
Yeah.
not going to spend time trying to waste time. And so if they see licensed in the title, whether they just got their license or not, they are just so much less likely to engage with your job ad because they might presume with the other licensed ads that they need 2 years of experience. And so we want to refrain from putting licensed in if it's not 100% necessary with prior experience. If it's they need to be licensed within 2 weeks of hire date, don't put licensed in the title.
Yeah, I got you. Really great stuff there. And of course, Trevor, I have to ask, you'll see job ads that have, insurance sales, unlimited earning potential, all capped in parentheses in the title. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we just want the position title, nothing else. We don't want, unlimited earning potential, sign-on bonus, even though that's a great, way to attract people. We don't even want that in the title. So it really should be strictly the position title, nothing else. The only, I guess, exception that I make is when I'm creating job ads is if the ad is fully remote. I do like to put remote at the
Sure.
start of the job ad, remote insurance sales rep. But other than that, I don't think there's really any circumstance where anything other than the title should be included.
Yeah, because generally when you have such an opportunity like that, which is fantastic, right? Like unlimited earning is good. That is something that should be highlighted later in the job ad during the benefits section because that's where they're going to be looking, right? They care about the comp, the benefits, and then whether or not it's remote. And then oftentimes the job title is just get the job ad in front of them, right?
Yeah, because the thing is, Indeed is going to match our job ad title with their searches. So if we have insurance sales rep as our title and someone types in insurance sales, that's a 66% match with what, the applicant is searching. If we have insurance sales rep, unlimited commissions, sign on bonus, we have 8 more words and they only typed in two. So the percentage match instead of 66%, now we're looking at, less than 20%. So
Yeah.
our ad is going to be, hidden from them. And Indeed doesn't like those words anyways, so they'll purposely hide your ad even more.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, again, that's up to them with the guidelines and making sure that, we do our best chance to make sure everyone's adhering to it. But really good stuff on the title. Who knew that you could obviously get so much good information from something that seems very simple, right? But can easily be overcomplicated, it sounds like from what you're saying, Trevor.
Oh yes, it's
Oh yeah, big
very.
time. All right, very cool. All right, now job description. So I don't necessarily know if we have time to sort of go through and craft all these. So I'm happy to go through and use a template where I can complete the top of the job ad so we can utilize this section of it. But maybe that we use this sort of empty box here to be able to sort of bullet point what people should be looking to include in their job description. Or, obviously I'm open to what your feedback is in terms of how you think it would be best to show some folks and talk about some things that would be important for them to think about when putting their job description together.
Sure. Yeah. The job description, I think, is, sometimes people don't put enough thought into it,
Okay.
or they put the wrong types of emphasis into the job description. What I
Yeah.
mean by that is, the job description should, quite frankly, be short, sweet, to the point. Indeed tells us that on average, a candidate is going to read a job ad for 13 total seconds. And so what that tells me is the longer your job ad, the less likely they're going to read it. And they're just going to scroll on to the next one that, doesn't have, an entire book worth of information in it. Because, when we think of job ad, of course, word ad, advertisement, we really want to attract these people. We want to pull them in. And so to do that with our job description, we want to keep it short and concise. I would say about 2 paragraphs is what I generally recommend. First paragraph should be something about company culture. If you've got some awards with your company, I would be sure to mention that because that's how we attract top talent is letting them know that we foster top talent. And then the second paragraph should predominantly be about really just kind of a generic overview of the job. It's not going to be something in depth. We'll use the requirements and responsibilities for a bit more of the nuance of the position, but just hey, in this position you're going to be doing this, this, and this, and you kind of just leave it at that. Now, the most important thing in our job description, and this is for any job ad, regardless of what type of position we're hiring for, is going to be salary transparency.
Mm.
This is going to be our bread and butter. And if our ad does not include this in our salary or in our job description, then, quite frankly, we might as well not even be posting an ad as far as I see it. So, what do I mean by salary transparency? I'm really talking about giving the applicant a window into what they'll be earning, but broken down transparency. So what I'm talking about is base salary. I'm talking about, if we have a large range, we need, hey, is this based on experience? Is this going to be, if I'm licensed or unlicensed, what's my starting salary?
Mhm.
And then we can go into kind of first year earnings. We can also talk about, earnings for higher potential applicants, maybe someone who's already licensed, for example. But we want to, if there's anything that we really want to go into heavy detail on in our job description, it's going to be what they're going to get paid specifically with the base salary and what they're going to, expect as far as commission. We don't want to promise them anything, but it's totally appropriate to say something like, base salary will start at $20 to $25 an hour based on experience if you're licensed. First year commissions, you can expect around $17,000 in commission if you're new to this. Our top earners made $40,000 in commission last year. So
Yeah.
then, regardless of experience level, everyone can take a look at that job ad and they'll, be able to approximate where they'll fall at on that wage scale.
Perfect. I think that's great, right? And I mean, again, that's a lot of information that you can put into it that should summarize a pretty healthy 2 paragraphs, yet not allow you to just sort of go off into the weeds and get away from that being that concise, right? We talked about two of the things that we're going to discuss today is avoiding vague and misleading descriptions. So I think that's sort of what you hit on there, right? Instead of being vague, be transparent with your compensation plan.
Mhm.
Because if your compensation plan is built for top performers, they'll see that, they'll be attracted to it, they'll apply, and then they'll complete the assessment, and they'll come back with most likely that sales personality that you're looking for. Does that sound relatively accurate to summarize it up there, Trevor?
More than relatively accurate. I'd say entirely.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. Cool. All right. Well, again, guys, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of bullet point this, and then what I'm going to do is post this job ad privately, and then I'm going to send out the link to you all so you can take a look at the notes that we've left in each description. It's going to be a really unique way of me using this feature that I imagine our product team didn't think about when they were designing it, but I'm going to use it that way today. So again, I'm going to sort of take bullets as we're going through, but feel free to take notes yourself too. And of course, the session is being recorded. But then once the job ad is complete, I will go ahead and sort of change the title to it. Actually, I'll do it right now. I'll just do assessment workshop ad sample. And then you'll be able to come in here and I'll be able to share the link with you all. And Kelly will send it out as a part of the recording tomorrow. But Trevor, let's talk about responsibilities and requirements. I don't imagine this section will take us too long. But what generally do you recommend for both of these? Sometimes people don't understand the difference between responsibilities and requirements. So if you want to highlight that before I suppose you get into what's recommended, but anything to note here at the beginning?
Yeah, the responsibilities, it really should just be, what is the applicant going to do for the brunt of their day? We don't need to get into all the fine details of exactly everything that they'll be doing. We just want to give them high level overviews onto, what is the top 80% of their day going to look like? If an applicant needs to make coffee once a day, we're not going to list that, right? If they need to make coffee twice an hour, maybe we'll consider putting that in the responsibilities. But really, with the responsibilities and the requirements, the main thing is, kind of the same theme, short, sweet, to the point. We don't want to overload the applicant with too many details because really we don't want to scare them away, right? Remember, this is a job ad. We want to attract them. And if we list off 14 responsibilities, even though in reality it's not overwhelming, if you see a list of 14 things, you might just read that and be like, oh my goodness, I might be, I might not have a moment of peace working here. And so they'll
Yeah.
just scroll past it. So I recommend 4 to 6 short, concise bullet points, just going into, what the day is going to look like. We don't need to be too specific, like, hey, if they're doing sales, tell them how they'll be doing sales. You don't need to say, exactly the, software that they'll be using, et cetera, et cetera.
Perfect. All right. Short, sweet, straight to the point. As I had mentioned, it probably would be. Anything else here to mention of responsibilities? I really
No,
have.
I
Don't
think,
scare them away. Keep it short, and talk about what the applicant's going to be doing for the brunt of their day.
yeah, yeah,
All right,
exactly.
perfect. All right. How about for requirement? Anything on the 4 to 6, or do you recommend maybe something a little bit different?
No, same thing, 4 to 6 if you have them. I know not always people do have them. And that's kind of the important thing is if you don't have a bunch of requirements, that's totally fine. It's, go with what is absolutely necessary for them to even consider, for you to even consider giving them a call. I'm sorry. So if, we want them to have a license, we shouldn't put that in the requirements if we don't need it. If your license is preferred, you can put license preferred, but don't put you'd be surprised with how many clients I talk to that, I ask them about, licensing and I'm like, "Hey, I see you have license required in here." And they're like, "Oh, well, I don't really, they don't need it." I'm like, "Well, the applicant's not going to know that." So it
Yeah.
should be truly what is essential for you to pick up the phone, nothing else.
Yeah, the essentials. All right, there we go. All right. Anything else that's good to add for requirements? Again, I knew that those two would go through a little bit quicker because generally, again, we just don't want to overcomplicate it. So don't scare them away. Keep it short. What is necessary for you to consider them a candidate that you would call? Only add the essentials. Anything else, Charles?
No, perfect.
All right. Another big one, though, is the benefits. So
Yes.
personally, when I do a lot of conversations with current clients or folks that have created their job ad, I typically see that this is where a lot of people sell themselves short. And I'm interested to hear sort of what both of your opinions are, both you, Faith and Trevor, to see do you see people adding in a lot of benefits? What is your recommended? How many benefits is recommended? Like, what do you think?
There's no recommended amount. The more the
Oh,
merrier. Here
oh,
I know I said, the theme of the rest of the ad is short, sweet, to the point. This is the exclusion. We want to brag on ourselves as much as possible here. We can't possibly talk ourselves up enough. So, really anything and everything that you can possibly think of should go in the benefits. And it's not just limited to, what you see here. You see at the very bottom, we have the add custom benefit button. That's where you can type in anything else. That's where you can add tidbits about, company culture. That could be something as simple as, office snacks and coffee provided, or, birthdays off. Or, one time I had someone add dog birthdays off to their job ad and they got 30 applies overnight. So it's anything that will have the applicant visualize what it's like working in your office will move mountains here. And I truly do mean that. This is, the second most important thing, second to the salary transparency. But we can really, really brag on ourselves here. And if you are ever looking for inspiration on, maybe some benefits that you possibly offer, but you can't even think of them, Nolan, if you'll hover your cursor over that little information eye just to the right of benefits,
yeah,
and then if you click on that underlined part, it'll actually open up a link of benefits, and you can just scroll through this entire list of benefits and review it. If you see it, throw it in there. Again, don't be bashful. Brag on yourself as much as you can.
yeah, bingo. How about that? I'm sure a lot of people, forgot or didn't know that little link was there too, either, right? So take a look at that. If you got some benefits to add in, take a look. I may or may not be talking about myself when I say they forgot that this was there, but nonetheless, a good thing to point back out, right? So again, I'm going to add some stuff in here, guys. Right, add as many benefits as possible. This is again where I see people sell themselves short. Like, can be as simple as coffee and snacks, or can be as complex as offering health insurance, right? But don't sell yourself short. There are a lot of benefits that you are all providing to your employees that you're not highlighting in the job ad, that your new employees or potential new employees, applicants rather, don't have a chance to even know that you're doing, which can really enhance the way that they view a workplace environment, right? So, all right, Trevor, I think we've created our job ad here. I'm going to go through and fill out the rest of this so then Faith and I can go over sort of the job ad and how she goes through the process. But anything else that you want to pinpoint in terms of the ad that you think is important for people to consider, for people to know?
I think the last tidbit I would say is with remote or hybrid remote, it's
Mhm.
important if you do offer hybrid remote to explain in the job description what that opportunity looks like.
Okay.
If it's, hybrid is based on experience, or if it's after a probationary period, or, if it's based on production, for example, let them know that and give even more information than that. If you already have a set schedule, like let's say hybrid is Monday, Fridays, you're working at home, put that information in there. Or if you don't know, say, let them know that, the hybrid scheduling is up in the air for, you to work it out. Because the more information you give here, again, the more information that they have to work with and actually evaluate if, they should apply.
Hmm. Hmm. Fantastic. And I think that that's a good thing to highlight, because what we see is that, typically in an organic setting, you have more applicants that are coming in, of course, remote, and more that are coming in office roles than those of hybrid. And that's just because, to what Trevor's point is, not enough people are sort of explaining what is all entailed in that job ad, or what is entailed in a remote work environment. It also has something to do with the candidates too. It's reasonable to assume that they're looking at fully remote ads first, and then once they've gone through that section, they then go to look at their in-office jobs, right? The first desirable and their second option. A lot of people, for whatever reason, don't think of hybrid originally. But again, really good feedback from Trevor. All right. Well, thank you, Trevor. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
We'll
course.
bring you into this session. Once we get into sort of going through how, and then we can sort of attach it to the personality results. So, Faith, welcome to the show. Right. I know that you do a lot of consulting in your work in the virtual hiring assistant program, right, where you meet with agencies on a weekly basis, right? Sometimes, on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, I'm sure, depending on the agent's preference, right? But as a part of that, you're doing a lot of consultation, a lot of discussion on, hey, my job ad's performing or it's not, right? What do you think of this? What do you think of that from a candidate perspective? So I think that you're going to bring a really, really great perspective to this conversation in terms of sort of giving people an inside look into what that consultation that's a part of the virtual hiring assistant program looks like. Does that seem fair?
Absolutely, Nolan. You said it perfectly.
Man, sometimes I can sound pretty good when I talk, but nonetheless. All right. So for, the job ad that we just went through with Trevor. Now, when you're going through a job ad, Faith, typically what are some of the things that you see where agents are sort of missing the mark, or when they get to you? And because, of course, Trevor's then creating their job ad, which I'm sure then, of course, is including all the things that he had mentioned. But in that upfront intro call, they most likely are like, hey, here's the job ad that I had created from 2 years ago, right? And you're taking a look at sort of how that works and talking them through what needs to be included now. So I guess just walk us through what those conversations look like and generally what takes place there.
Yeah, I mean, when the intro call alone, we're really going over not necessarily what they're going to be doing, but how are they going to fit into the culture of the office for that individual. Of course, it's important to know day to day what their quotas or call times or talk times are going to be. But when it comes down to it, it also comes down to culture fit and what is that going to look like for everybody, because a sales leader in one office might not be the best option for a sales leader in another office. You might be looking for a closer, or dare I say, a persistent, before Nolan goes off on a tangent about persistence. But that is, in all reality, understanding the type of person and cultural fit is also important as well too. So we really hit on that during the intro call as well, making sure that they do put that information into their job ad forms. So Trevor can really look at that too when he's creating the job ad, to pull in keywords and culturally and what that looks like, just like he talked about in the first paragraph, making sure that the culture is in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, cool. And then typically, when folks are looking for sales personalities, again, you talk to a lot of different types of agencies, right? And all different types of locations and all different types of situations. So, of course, highlighting the company culture is fantastic. It helps people sort of see the vision of what they're going to be doing and sort of whether or not they can attach themselves to that position in the long term, right? Because a lot of folks are looking for sort of that career-oriented role rather than something that they see as maybe just a position that they're going to have for just a couple of months, right? So, of course, it needs to hit on those factors, including feeling like home. But when folks are looking for a salesperson or a service role or what have you, do you typically have personalities that, come up as popular choices other than the persistent, of course?
Absolutely. um, I normally will say we start when it comes to kind of assessments. Of course, there's going to be a blanket. For sales, you're going to have your typical 5 or 6. For service, you're going to have your typical office managers, telemarketers, things like that. But when your job ad is live and when we're starting to get applies in, we really start to open up on the conversation on what exactly are they going to be doing? Because what one agency or what one client does for a sales role might be completely different to another person. I talked to a client last week where most of their job is going to be networking within communities. They're going to be going door to door to different communities, building those relationships. That individual wants somebody that is more heavy on relationship building, right? Whereas another client wants somebody that is going to be on the phones all day long. They have a certain amount of talk time that they need to hit. They have to hit that. That's going to be somebody that's going to be higher in motivation and drive and persuasiveness and convincing. So a sales leader might be fit for one agency, but a networker might be another fit for another agency. So it really also gets into those responsibilities as well, and exactly what type of sales or service they're going to be doing too.
Yeah, that's so funny too, right? Because I'm sure that it's happened before, and it's not really that funny. But nonetheless, I'm sure it's happened before where it's like, hey, Trevor told me to use ideal traits, and he told me he hired a couple sales leaders. That's what I want. But then, my job, I suppose, demands networkers, right? Or maybe nurturers, because I need
Yeah.
somebody who's going to put sort of those relationships on a pedestal, right? And I hire a bunch of sales leaders, and I'm like, why are these people so independent, right? And not necessarily as driven by the personality side of it, and they're not really being successful in the role with the tasks that I've given them, and then it doesn't work out, right? So I think that your advice there is to not just look at it like it's a blank slate. I think that's what even you said, right?
Yeah.
You have to really dig into it and consider. So, man, all right. So what are some of the things that you think that, agents aren't thinking about when they get to you, right? Like you mentioned, the company culture and sort of the blank slate, but from a personality standpoint, where are they not using the assessment where they could the most, I suppose?
Yeah, when it comes to really creating the job, but there are, 15, 16 different assessment results, right? So it's finding which one is going to be best suited for you. Also, I think first and foremost, start with taking the assessment yourself and have your current staff take the assessment, because that will understand who you have in the office right now and who you maybe there's some gaps in your structure or in your persuasiveness, and you want this new person to fill those gaps in. So that would be, first of all, my first step. And then secondly, I would take a look and see, like I said, where those gaps are, and then put that into the job description. If you need somebody that is going to be structured and is task oriented, have those keywords in there. And Trevor even said this when he was talking about the job title as well. The keywords are so important because that's how they're found, right? So when you're looking for a salesperson, let's just say you want somebody that's task oriented, maybe money motivated, maybe goal oriented. You want those keywords in there. You're looking for somebody who's service. You want somebody that's reliable, maybe somebody that is detail oriented. They have time management skills. Those types of keywords. You want to think of the characteristics of the candidate that you want and make sure those are kind of scattered throughout, not just in the job description, but also in even the responsibilities and the requirements of the job ad too.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. And, of course, the age-old question is there to where it's like the assessment is only as good as many candidates as I get. We hear that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, hey, I've posted a job ad. I'm only getting 2 or 3 candidates. Yeah, the assessment's great, but, I don't have enough candidates to really make the assessment worthwhile, right? So, again, in your consultations that you have, Faith, right? Like I'm sure that you can only make so many alterations to a job ad to help it just get past until you get to the point where it's just like it's time for you to sponsor this job ad, right? And it could be, due to the licensing requirement, could be the area that you're located, it could just be the competition that's present within the market, all these different things. So I know that within the virtual hiring assistant program, one of the things that we highly, highly recommend for folks to get the most bang for their buck, right? Because I think it's you guys will work up to 250 candidates. Is that still the case, or is it
Yeah.
limited? Oh, okay, it's 200.
250.
Okay, 250. So 250 candidates. Obviously, to get the most bang for your buck, the more candidates that you got, the cheaper it is for each candidate. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to sponsoring, what's generally your recommendation for that, right? Because the more candidates you get, the more assessments you can send out, the better chance you have of finding the right assessment result and your better chance of hiring people. So again, sorry, I keep talking past my question, but
You're fine.
please.
You're good. I'll let you ask your question fully before I answer. So my answer is, even just sponsoring alone, regardless of the amount, I will say you do get 4.5 times more applies than if you were just running your job ad organically. That right there is a huge talking point, right? Because that's going to warrant so many more applies. When it comes to kind of budget, in you could do Indeed or ZipRecruiter, and and you can run certain algorithms and things like that. Based on this time of year right now, it's really not super expensive. I mean, we've talked about this. It's normally between $50 to maybe $150 for the 30 days, and that warrants also more data. You get to see your impressions and your apply rate and what your click-through rate is, because that also will tell you if anything in the content of the job ad needs to be fixed or adjusted or changed. But if you have all of those things, even if you have great content and you're not sponsoring your job ad, people can't see it. Maybe you're sponsoring it, your content isn't great, then we need to change those things. So, I mean, budget wise, like I said, 50, maybe 150. You might get some more rural areas that might be a little bit more, especially if you're looking for somebody in office or licensed, because all of those factors go into what your recommended budget is. So keep those things in mind as well too.
Yeah. What's the quickest you've seen someone hire someone when sponsored at Yana?
2 weeks. I feel like that's even generous, to be honest. If I probably like a week and a half.
Week and a
So
half? Like, what are we talking? Are we talking business days or are we talking weekday? Like weekdays? So are we talking like 6 days? Or are we
but
talking?
I would say I would include weekends because you still have the callers, right? So I would still say
Yeah.
7 to 8 days,
Yeah.
maybe, even with the sponsorship.
I hear you. All right.
So
Very cool.
yeah.
What about the longest it's taken from sponsorship? That's probably a question people care more about.
Longest?
Mm-hmm.
Tough. I probably would say, I mean, I don't want to give it time, but I will. And it's only because there's qualifications to it, right? If you're looking for licensed or in office or remote. So I've seen people sponsor it and gone 3 months sponsoring before they've made a hire. Still could be pretty quick to some people, but again, you've got your licensing and if it's in office, remote, things like that as well too. So
Yeah. And I mean, it's important to know too, folks. Like if you're listening and you're like, oh man, 3 months. It's not like they weren't getting candidates because they're sponsoring a job ad. Like candidates are coming in. So then at that point, the question is to be had. Like think about how many people that they might have hired otherwise that they didn't. And it probably saved them so much in the cost of a bad hire, right? So whether it takes, a week and a half or 3 months, at the core of it, the important part is that you find the right person because all right, you might have to sponsor for $50 or $100 for 2 months. So like somewhere between $200 to $300 in sponsorship, right? But you save thousands in just finding the right person. You know what I'm saying? So again, hopefully that helps you all in considering the sponsorship. I suppose we have some time here, Faith, so we can go through sort of the sponsorship approach and give people an opportunity to fire in some questions if they have them before we wrap up here. But I have sort of my job ad pulled up. This is one that I created for a water technician. I didn't choose the zoologist one this time. But anyways, I'll go through this process. Got my job ad created. I got my pre-qualifying questions here. I post the job ad. So now it's going to be posted organically, of course, as we know. And then it's going to launch you then to this final screen. So as Faith had mentioned, you have two options here for the sponsorship. You've got either ZipRecruiter, which is the flat rate of $2.99 for 30 days, or the sponsor on Indeed, a little bit more flexible, right? Because all they require is a minimum budget of $50. So Faith, what's the promo that Indeed's running now for new users?
yeah, so if you do not currently have an Indeed account, you actually can get $100 sponsorship credit through them actually that you can apply. So
fantastic. And I think that there's a link for that, right? So
there is.
Reach out to us inside your account, guys. You'll get a chance to chat with Trevor directly after this meeting, and he can send you the link, right? So Trevor in the chat, as you can see his face right there, right? And he'll go ahead and send you that link. So get in the chat of your account, ask about the Indeed credit link, and we'll get that to you. But as you can see here, since my Indeed account is already connected, lets me know that with a budget of $36, I can expect to receive 35 applications in 30 days. Now, of course, again, the minimum is $50, right? So I'm going to have to do the 50. I'm going to create the campaign, and it's then going to take me to this next campaign predictor before I suppose, approve it. It's going to let me know that for $50, I can expect to receive 53 applications for my dollar amount for 30 days. And it even tells me how much my cost per application is, right? So again, make sure that you take advantage of this. This is a way for you to get in front of 53 people for $50 in 30 days. And it can help you take more advantage of the assessment, take more advantage of the SMS texting, take more advantage of the video interviewing. If you're not using these tools, then that's what, this Trevor and the support team are there to assist you with, because they're such valuable assets to really any recruiting process. So making sure that you're communicating with your candidates through call, email, and text, and making sure that you're using that video interview, because I know a lot of you have been affected by ghosting and unqualified candidates in the last year or probably previous to that. So you have a tool within Ideal Trades that its specific function is to help you circumvent the issue of candidate ghosting, as well as unqualified candidate after unqualified candidate, right? So, Faith, I'm sure that that's a little bit of what your expertise is on, yeah, in a more
Sure is.
accelerated sense. Yes, all right, very good. All right, cool. Trevor, Faith, I appreciate you guys for joining, right, and taking time out of your day to be here. Trevor, of course, is our inbound chat support. So if you're in the chat feature, go in there and tell him how good of a job he did today. Because Trevor, you were awesome, and you brought some really great content to the forefront. So make sure that you take advantage of Trevor through the chat function within Ideal Traits, as well as taking advantage of the virtual hiring assistant program, because that's really how you get to take advantage of both of these two great folks, right? Trevor will do your job ads, and Faith will do your consultation. Faith, I know you and Keegan sort of share that responsibility, but if anybody specifically wants to work with you, right, Keegan's great too, so they might be missing out, but you're equally as great, Faith. So if they want to work specifically with you, can that arrangement be made?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. You just have to ask. I guess things happen, right? So again,
Sure do.
take advantage of the virtual hiring assistant program, folks. Reach out to us, schedule assessment trainings, keep showing up to these, keep showing up to success spotlights, because I promise you, as you continue to do this, hiring is a skill. So the more that you bring it to the forefront, the more that you practice it, the more that you incorporate new things into your process, the better that you'll get and the easier it will seem to be, right? So I thank you again for the day after Labor Day, taking your time to join us, especially when you most likely have a lot of people reaching out. Hope you don't have any clients that maybe dinged up their boats or anything in particular. But anyways, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you in a couple weeks for the 21st edition of Success Spotlight, which is super exciting. And we'll see you back on the first Tuesday of October, for our next assessment workshop. So thank you all again. We appreciate your business and your support so much. And thank you again to our two guests for being here. We'll see you guys all next time.